FlossTube. This is Belinda from Magpies Me. It's been a few weeks since I've recorded a video. I've actually been sick for over a week with a really bad cold, so I'm just getting back on top of things now, and it's nice to be back here talking with everybody. I have a few updates. I have got a finished project to show you, as well as a work in progress. I've also got an antique sampler to show you that I purchased from the United Kingdom, and that is from 1805. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you as well. So let's start with the finish first of all. A while back I showed you this chart that I was working on. It's by Dames of the Needle, and it's a flower and bird pin cushion. It's a lovely little design which I think turned out pretty nicely. I used some of Dames of the Needle's pom-pom trim to finish it. So it's actually got the designer's pom-pom trim on there as well, and the colour I used is plum. That's correct, dark plum. And then on the back I used a piece of wool, so that looks really nice and neutral on there. But it's pretty. I stuffed it with crushed walnut shells, and so it's really lovely. It's nice and comfortable to hold, soft, with just the right amount of filling in it. And I used over-dyed threads to stitch that with, all the called for threads. I have been working on the Give Thanks sampler, Thanksgiving sampler. That is a free download on DMC's website. I've shown it before. I am using some alternative fabric and thread though. So this is where I'm up to. I'm using a Tudor silk, and it's Autumn Arbor number 113. I'm using a single strand of that silk, and it's a variegated thread that changes colour. Beautiful autumn colours. So I'm about halfway finished and enjoying that. I did get a little bit tired of working with the one thread and decided, I'm going to start another project. So I will show you what I've been working on. I should have made a note of what fabric I'm using. I think if I just look on the back of one of my printouts. No, I can't find it. Well, I'm not sure what I'm using. I will try to update you next time, and hopefully I'll finish the sampler by the time it's Thanksgiving. But I did decide I wanted to stitch something new, and I think it was perhaps inspired by a new purchase that I made of an antique sampler from the United Kingdom. I've mentioned in previous videos that I really love Adam and Eve samplers. Now this is quite large, so we'll have to see how it goes. The reflections are pretty bad. So this is from 1805, and it's, oh goodness, when I received it from the UK, I was really surprised at how fine this fabric is. This is actually, I could tell from the photographs when I purchased it that it was a silk thread that was used, but I didn't realize it was also stitched on silk, and it's an extremely fine high count I think it must be around 55 count fabric, but I haven't sat down and measured it yet. The wording on here says the Holy Feast of Easter was enjoined to bring Christ's resurrection to our mind. Rise then from sin as he did from the grave, that by his merits he your souls may save. Then in the middle, so in this area, it's a little hard to read. It says, if all mankind would live in mutual love, this world would much resemble that above. And at the bottom, we learn who made this sampler, who stitched this sampler. Mary Bellamy worked this in the 11th year of her age, 1805. So I'm sorry about the reflections. Really lovely motifs. I'm going to reproduce this sampler. So I have two antique samplers in my possession now, and I do plan on reproducing these. This is about 2 feet by 2 feet in measurement. I think it's really, really pretty, and I just want to acknowledge the kind lady Donna who sold this to me on eBay and packaged it so beautifully. It arrived all the way from the UK to New Zealand in one happy piece. So there that goes. I'll try and get some close-ups for you without too much glare. You'll see just a little bit of age there in the fabric, but this has been framed appropriately with acid-free materials. So it's beautifully framed. The colours are vibrant. It doesn't seem to have incurred much fading. Just a little bit of wear and tear over the years. But as you can see, I had trouble reading the wording, but it's so fine, it's actually quite hard to read. I don't know how Mary completed this. You know, when you think that when this was stitched in 1805, she had to have worked this by candlelight perhaps, or during daytime when she had suitable natural lighting. But I can only imagine. I don't wear my glasses for stitching, so these are for long distance. But when I'm stitching on 40 count, you know, I don't have any trouble seeing, fortunately, at this point in my time. But on this particular fabric, I would have difficulty. So she had to have really carefully used her little 10-year-old eyes to stitch this, and it's beautifully proportioned. There are a few inconsistencies and where it's not quite perpendicular, but just beautiful. Lovely colours. So we've got reds, greens and golds mostly, also some silver, and they're very soft shades, so I particularly like that. So anyway, I received that lovely sampler. I'm going to give it a good home, Donna, if you're watching, and I'm just thrilled to have it hanging on a wall that we walk past the sampler many times a day, and it has pride and place on the wall all by itself at this point. And my goal is to surround it with other Adam and Eve samplers that I've stitched myself. As I said, it inspired me to start something new. I have started this lovely wee design by Little House Needleworks. It is a 2012 design, and it is based on an original that was dated 1831, believed to be English in origin. The original did not have Adam and Eve stitched on it, and I'm not going to stitch Adam and Eve on mine. So that's the design when it's finished, and I'll show you what I have completed, and I'll tell you about the substitutions I've made. So here's what I've completed so far. I'm really happy with it. I just adore the clarity of this wee image. I was supposed to, the fabric called for on this design was actually 32 count vintage navy bean from Lakeside Linens. I don't have any of that fabric, and because the pattern's called to use two strands of thread over 2 fabric threads, I decided no, I'm just going to stick with some higher count so that I can get away with using 1 strand of thread, which is my preferred method. And I looked at my stash. I've been trying to grow that stash a little bit. Tracy, you're helping me out there. I could do with a few more pieces, by the way. Hint, hint. But anyhow, I found this 40 count fabric. It's platinum. I can't remember who the company is that distributes this and creates this fabric, but it's 40 count platinum. It's a lovely soft linen, so I'm thinking maybe it's a Weeks Dye Works linen, but I'm not sure. But it's absolutely adorable to use, and I completely recommend it. I'm using, with one exception, all of the called for threads, which are Gentle Arts and Crescent Colours threads. But I didn't have one of the thread colours in my stash. That was Brandy Pears. So I looked through my stash of thread, and I found an old Willow Stitchery thread, Quaker Meeting House Rust, which works really, really well for the rust red that's in the design. So I'll hold up the threads. So you can see them. Pretty colours. I'm doing this on an iPad this time. I'm recording this video, so it's a little bit of a different setup for me today. So I'm not doing very well, but those are the threads, and so all but the original called for colours except for one. So I should have that finished soon. I've just got to finish Adam and Eve, and then stitch the 2 flowers that are standing on either side of Adam and Eve. And yeah, I'm thrilled with that. I'll be framing this piece, and I hope I have a suitable frame at home here to use. So that's what I've been working on while I've been I haven't really been doing a great deal of stitching because I've had this cold, which is still sort of hanging about and affecting my voice. I did make a purchase. I'm always looking through antique shops for bits and pieces that I can repurpose, and I was down in Oamaru, which is south of where I live, and I spotted a lovely little cutlery tray, which I didn't purchase, but I've since actually got in mind going down and purchasing it. But anyhow, the shop owner, his brother was watching the stall that day, and I noticed these beautiful handmade boxes that were in the store window, and I said, whose boxes are those? They're beautiful. And the gentleman said, oh, I make those. So I had a wee word with him, and I said, would it be at all possible for you to make one of these for me with a handle, a dividing little handle in the centre to make it like a cutlery tray? And he very kindly did, and I went and picked up my box. It's made of native New Zealand timber, and it has beautiful corners that he worked there, And so he inserted this central piece. What I'm going to do is stitch two pillows, if you like, and glue them to the bottom of this box on the inside, and that will be a lovely storage container. I'm also going to do some waxing of the box. I asked him to leave the wood natural. I think this is New Zealand kauri, which is a very precious wood, a precious New Zealand timber, and really our kauri trees that are still standing, hundreds of years old. When the early settlers came to New Zealand in the early 1800s, they felled a lot of our kauri trees. So the majority of the massive kauri trees were felled and used to build the early New Zealand colonial homes, cottages mostly. And there are very few of these old established kauri trees remaining. We're replanting them. So this is just a piece of timber that probably was repurposed for the use of making these beautiful boxes, because as I say, the timber's not readily available. So it must have been an old piece of timber that was used to make that. So that's my plan. I'm kind of thinking maybe some patriotic designs to put in the bottom of that box. We'll see. But that's all I have for you, floss tubers. I'm looking forward to seeing if anyone has any comments or requests. It would be lovely to hear from some people. While I was sick, I again got kind of lonely. It's when I'm at my sickest, I think, on those occasions. I've had a bad year and I seem to have got one flu or cold after another, but it's during those times I really get to miss having stitching buddies. So consider yourselves my stitching buddies, and yeah, please do make comments or make requests. I'd love to hear from you, and I would certainly respond to each of you individually. I do, in upcoming videos, I have plans to make some probably two videos, a part 1 and part 2, showing some Christmas ornaments that I've made over the years. I have a special collection of them, and I wondered if perhaps during the video I could actually place them on a tree which my husband and I found recently. We had to buy a small sized tree, Christmas tree, for our little cottage, and I'm going to sit it right over my shoulder here on this old antique cabinet. So that's what I have planned, and I would also like to make some more Christmas ornaments between now and Christmas. But that's it for now. I haven't been doing much reading, so I'll share with you some reading recommendations another time as well. Thanks for watching Magpies and Me, everybody. Have a good week. Bye bye.